educational series this year. It's a lecture series called How Does Grant County Work? And we want to find out how our government and other social service agencies function in Grant County so that we can become more informed voters, more informed citizens, and just maybe even inspire someone else to run for office. I do have some things over here that I wanted you guys to take. I got these from the Grant County News. If you haven't gotten a copy, these are all the maps for Grant County. So it's really cool to have all the cities plus Grant County maps for your reference. And the other document is called This is Grant County. I keep this book handy all year round. It's got all the information about fiscal court, all the cities, any service, anything in Grant County. So this is great to have handy. Feel free to take a copy. Our special guest tonight is Tabatha Clemons, and she is the Grant County Clerk. And we're just really honored to have her come and talk to us about what her job is, what she does, and provide an update on Grant County Clerk. Thank you, Tabatha.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. As Jen said, I am your county clerk, and a lot of times the county clerks are confused with circuit clerks. So at least 4 or 5 times every day I redirect someone to the correct office. So I'll give you a rundown just so you know what the county clerk does for the citizens here in Grant County. We handle all motor vehicle transactions, so if you're renewing your registration on your vehicle, need a license plate, or want to transfer a vehicle, that is performed at the county clerk's office. If you are purchasing land and having a deed or taking out a mortgage on your home, or someone in your family passes away, we record wills in our office, so all land records are recorded in the county clerk's office. That also includes meeting minutes from the fiscal court meetings, so those documents are recorded in public record in the county clerk's office. All records on the land record side of the office is public record, so anytime you'd like to come and look through old wills or anything like that, you're more than welcome. We also issue marriage license, and those are public records of our office as well. So the other function that the county clerk performs is in coordination with the County Board of Elections, and that is all election services, including voter registration. So all of that is performed in the county clerk's office. Those are the big 3 things that when someone says, what do you do? Perform motor vehicle transactions, record land records, and conduct elections. There are many other things that you do not see behind the scenes that has to happen at the county clerk's office in order for us to function. Part of that is tax rate. So we accept in all of the tax rates from every taxing entity in the county, and we have to sort and organize those and have those available to send over to the PBA office to have them put in to help prepare our tax bills. If that doesn't happen, if those functions don't happen, you could have an incomplete tax bill, or you could have a tax bill that's incorrect. So we take a lot of pride in that. The other thing that we do with taxes in preparation with your tax bills, there's also something called franchise tax. And anyone who has a company in Grant County, like let's take the railroad for example. The railroad receives a franchise bill from this county every year, and they have to pay a franchise tax to the county. So that is part of the function of what we provide, the bill for the franchise bills, take those to the sheriff. The sheriff is responsible for collecting that just like they would collect a tax bill. There's a plethora of those companies that you wouldn't even realize. Telecommunications are involved in that. The railroad, there's other like internet service providers that are wireless are involved in that. So there's several different functions of a franchise tax bill. So a lot of people don't know about that. That is something that's performed. Then there's all the day-to-day operations to keep the office up and going. Making sure that from an HR standpoint for our employees that we're providing good communication to them, good training, making sure that our budget is on target. So we'll go through a little bit about what I've completed in my first term as your county clerk, and then what we want to look forward to in the next term as you have me for 4 more years. So something that I did provide all of you, hopefully you received a handout that you can share with your neighbors and friends. If you didn't, grab me before the meeting's over. I try to provide this each year to not only the Democrat Club but also the Republican Club, so that we have voter statistics, that you're aware of what's happening with voter registration in our county, okay? So you can see the numbers back in 2015. I won't bore you going all the way back to 2000. You're welcome to look over and investigate that all that you want to. But back in 2015, there was 8,638 Democrats, and currently today, I ran these numbers right before I came down the street, 8,020, okay? So a decrease in the number of registered Democrats. Republicans in 2015, when I came into office, there was 6,824. Currently, there's 8,403, okay? Something that one of my deputies said to me today that kind of caught me off guard, there's a deadline for voter registration for changing your party, and that deadline is December 31st every year. If you change your party affiliation before December 31st, then you're eligible to vote in the May primary. If you change it after December 31st, you're not eligible. And she said this to me, we weren't even talking about elections or voter registration. She just said, you know, I've been taken aback in the last couple weeks. There's been a lot of people coming in, changing party, and we always try to explain and point out on the card, because it's also on the card, that if you change your affiliation, you will not be eligible to vote in the May primary. She said they don't care, which I found upsetting, because I want everyone to care about every election. Every election is important, and I want people to vote in every election, and I want more people to vote. But, you know, we need to take that seriously. This is statistically the lowest turnout election that we will have. In prior years, you can compare many years over, the state office holders' primary election will be the lowest turnout that we'll see. And these people set the course for us statewide over what we're going to see. And so I would just really encourage you to get out and make sure your friends and family are aware, they understand that there's an election, and encourage them to get out and vote, because, sure.
Any speculation, which is all it would be on your part, of why would this apathy about the primary?
Well, first, I think that a lot of people don't completely understand the process. Okay, so on one side, there's not understanding the process, that how do we get to the point of the general election? So I think that that's part of it. There's some people who, just by nature of their party affiliation, if they're not a Democrat or Republican, in Kentucky, they can't vote in a primary anyway. So you have some people who maybe say to their friends, you can't vote in that primary anyways, and they don't realize what that means. So I think there's some education that needs to happen with that. But I also think that, you know, people don't think that their vote really counts until the end. You know, sometimes they really don't think that it counts until the general election, which couldn't be any more further from the truth, because it matters right now who's elected to get to the general election. So that's really, you know, really important.
We're looking for a city building over here. City meeting? Okay. Thank you.
So some important information that's also on this sheet is about absentee voting. So if you yourself will be out of town on election day, you work outside of the county and you want to vote absentee, there's information about how to do that. If you have friends or family that need to request an absentee ballot, there's information on how to do that. And the easiest rule of thumb is to call our office, and you can press option 4. That'll take you to voter registration and elections. But you can also, if you're requesting a mail-in ballot, a lot of our college students do this. They request mail-in ballots because they're not coming home. They can do that online. So they can go to our website and request their absentee ballot. It will be emailed to us. It's an electronic email that will have the information in there that we need in order to process their mail application. However, I will say this about mailing absentee ballots. It takes a while, so request them now. Don't wait until 2 weeks before the election and expect us to be able to mail an application out, get that back, and then mail a ballot. There's laws that we have to follow And we want to make sure that everyone gets the opportunity to vote. If you are going to be outside of the county, you are welcome to come to our office and vote in-house absentee. That's also for people due to age, disability, or illness. So if you have someone ill in your family, but there's a nice sunny day and they're going out for a doctor's appointment and they feel up to stopping at our office, there's 3 handicap parking spots behind our office now. They can come in the back door and come up the elevator, and the machines are open to vote April 27th, which is a Saturday, through May 20th. Now, the only note to that, our office hours are out here to the side. The only note to that is we are closed on May 4th, which is a Saturday due to Derby Day and the street closure. Okay, so that's the only day that we would not be able to help a voter get in to cast their absentee ballot. And some people, when I was running for this position, said that they didn't want to come in and vote absentee because the only thing that was there was the electronic machine, and that's not what they were comfortable voting with. So we opened up both machines. So we have the paper ballot or the electronic machine ballot for absentee voting to accommodate all voters. Okay, so that just gives you a little bit of rundown about what we have going on in the voting world. It is in full swing for elections currently, so we are really starting to ramp up, and electronic poll books are being talked about widely in the clerk's world right now. So we'll see how that progresses over the next couple weeks. From what I understood from the Secretary of State and what my fellow clerks understood from the Secretary of State was that we were getting 2 e-poll books per precinct so that we would have a backup, and that's not the case now. So we will not be getting 2 per precinct. So we're trying to devise a plan on how we're going to move forward with that. So we'll get that determined as time moves on.
So you're saying we are or are not having them for primary?
We will have some for primary.
Okay.
Yeah. The board and I will sit down and make decisions. I have a training later this week. After that training, and we find out a little bit more from the Secretary of State's office and the State Board of Elections, we will make a determination at our next County Board of Election meeting in April of exactly which precincts we're going to deploy this time. Okay? So, sure.
You said you can't change registration. How much before the election?
December 31st, in order to be eligible for the May primary.
December? But you can, a new person can register 30 days before.
The new person registration deadline is April 22nd.
Okay.
Yes.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, to vote in the May primary. The last day if you are not registered to vote, the last day to register to vote is April 22nd. The deadline to change your party is December 31st. Okay? And then one last statistic about voter registration. I came to you all back February, right around the 12th of February last year, and gave you numbers. And I just wanted to share with you what's happened since then, because I gave you the 2015, which is a little more time, but just to give you, from February 12th of 2018, there was 8,296 registered Democrats and 7,851 registered Republicans. And then the numbers that I gave you for March, which is on your sheet, is the 8,020 Democrats, 8,403 Republicans. So that kind of gives you an idea. The difference between the Democrats from 2018 to 19 is 276 down. So it gives you some ideas there. So I've given you a little bit of an overview of kind of the main functions to keep our office operating, and then some voter information. This is something that I presented to the fiscal court when I did my closeout settlement for the last calendar year. I'm on a calendar year budget, not a fiscal year budget. County clerk's offices are operated that way because of taxes. Taxes operate on calendar year, so we operate on calendar year. So in our office currently, as of today, I have 7 deputies and 1 college intern for a total of 8 people working in our office. When I started in 2015, there was 6 full-time people. There was some retirements right towards the end of the prior clerk's term, so we had a position to fill, so we did that. Motor vehicle transactions. Last year, we performed just over 58,000 motor vehicle transactions, transferred over 12,000 titles, recorded 901 deeds, 741 mortgages, 171 couples came in for marriage license, and then we performed 2,986 title lien statements. And title lien statements are when you're placing a lien on a vehicle. So if you purchase a vehicle at a dealership and your paperwork gets sent to us, then there would be a lien placed. And this is where I put in my little plug for my office. If you're purchasing a vehicle outside of the county, you choose to go outside of the county to purchase a vehicle, please tell your dealership to send your title work to Grant County for us to process, because we make a small, very small percentage of the tax that you pay stays in our office, and that's how we operate our office. So we would appreciate it if you go out of county to buy a car. Of course, we want you to use the dealerships locally because they bring all of their work to us, well, most of their work to us. But if you do decide to go outside of county, please ask that they send your title work to Grant County, and then your plate will also say where you're from that way. So it ensures that. So total transactions in the county clerk's office in 2018, with all of our land records and our motor vehicle transactions, was 75,161 transactions. So for 7 full-time people to complete that, it's a pretty big task. So we do try to be efficient when we're there waiting on you. We appreciate your patience if you have to wait a few minutes for us. So budget, I always like to give a comparison year to year about budget for the fiscal court. But last year we projected that we would bring in $6.3 million. We actually brought in $7.1 million in our office. And what happens in a county clerk's office, it's very different than most offices. So every January, I start the year with $0 in the bank account and literally have to print a $0 bank statement for the auditor. If I don't have that, I get written up. So we start in January with nothing. In this year, in 2 days, I had to make payroll. And the fiscal court does not supplement my budget in any way. They do not pay for health benefits. They do not pay for retirement, Social Security. They pay the electric bill. And they do just regular routine maintenance on our building, and that's it. So we have to be able to make payroll in 2 days. Next year, it'll be 1 day. We'll have 1 business day of work and have to make payroll. So January is a very stressful time, especially for me. I do all of the monthly, yearly, and quarterly bookkeeping in the office. So I start growing gray hair quite frequently come December and January. So. But
Can you carry money over?
no, sir, I cannot carry money over from year to year.
And if there's extra,
It goes to the fiscal court.
and you can't even borrow that?
I cannot. No, I can't borrow it. The only thing that I can do is I could take out a loan through the state. It's a high interest loan. I wouldn't ever want to put my office or the county in that position. So counties who are smaller than 20,000, we really fall in a unique position. Counties that have a population of 20,000 people or less get a stipend from the state. They get a small stipend to help supplement their office. Anybody over 20,000 does not get that stipend. And then there's counties that are bigger, like Boone County and Kenton County, that they operate under 75-25. 75% of their money goes straight to the state, 25% stays in their office to run it, and any excess of that 25% goes to their fiscal court. So county clerk's offices operate very differently than most businesses. There's not really any business in corporate world that I know of that starts every year with 0 and builds their income as they go. It's very unique and sometimes quite challenging. Everybody in my family kind of knows that there's a certain months of the year that you just, you tread lightly around me, like the stress is just rolling off of me. January, the first few weeks of January happen to be one of those times. But all in all, I love what I do, so it certainly is a labor of love. So you just figure out ways to be creative and move forward. But the interesting statistic about our budget from 2015 to now, and we'll get into a little bit about retirement in a second. In 2015, we were able to turn over $106,000 and some change to the fiscal court in excess fees. This year, I have turned over $7,355. So I made it by the skin of my teeth this year. Okay, pretty close. However, in the 4 years of my first term in excess fees, I turned over just over $190,000 to the fiscal court to help supplement what the county has in their coffers to operate. So I'm proud of that number. That number was not easy to get to. You know, that first year you think, oh, it was $100,000. Why don't you have $100,000 every year? Well, the next information is why I don't. So retirement from 2015 to 2018, the difference that I paid in retirement, now mind you, I only added one full-time person. The difference I paid in retirement was just over $25,000 difference. The difference that I paid in Social Security was $5,200 difference. And I'm rounding these numbers off. There's change with it, but I'm rounding them off. In insurance, and this is all insurance, so some of my deputies waive health coverage, and when they do that, the county has a benefit. I have to follow the county personnel policy, so they have a benefit to the employees that waive coverage. They get a small stipend to use on other insurances, like life or accident or short term or something along those lines. So in insurances, I paid $65,693 more. Now here's where things get kind of interesting for our office. My office had always operated underneath of the county's health insurance policy, and the health insurance policy was going up every year substantially. They're in a partially self-funded plan through the Northern Kentucky Consortium, which is several cities in Northern Kentucky, the Area Development District, and some other folks are all in this plan. And we were not pleased in our office with the plan. The plan had some issues. We had several people who would go to the doctor to be told that they didn't have insurance. They couldn't verify their coverage. They'd get to the pharmacy and the pharmacy wouldn't take care. They couldn't verify that they had coverage at the pharmacy, or their birth date wasn't entered correctly. I mean, it was a plethora of issues. And the more that we dealt with it and the more that we paid, I just became very unhappy. And I went to my staff and I said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to bring in someone else. I called KCO, which is the Kentucky Association of Counties. They sell insurance to counties. I had them come in, present. I had our current prior with the fiscal court come in again, explain their plan. And I told the deputies, I said, ultimately it is my decision, but I want your input. So I gave them each kind of a survey, for lack of a better term, for them to kind of tell me what they wanted out of their health care and what plan they felt more comfortable with for their family. And I made the decision to pull out of the county's health insurance plan. By doing that, in 2 years, I saved, it was right at $25,000 for my office in 2 years by making that change. So had I not made that change, that $7,000 that I turned over this year, the fiscal court would have been paying my bills. Because the difference in 2018 between the health insurance that we have versus the health insurance that we would have had with the fiscal court was $15,000 difference. We paid $15,000 less in my office. So health insurance continues to be an issue in this country, and why someone can't get it under control is beyond me. I know the special interest in all of those things, but when you look at someone's, when I'm looking at people's paycheck and they're paying out more than they're taking home for health care for their family, I don't know why they keep coming to my office to work. I like to think it's because they like to work for me, but let's be realistic. They like to work close to home. That's what it comes down to. And they enjoy working for you. And that's what it is. But it's really hard for some of these folks to make it. It really is. So when you're in, and if you're angry and all of those things, make sure, sometimes the rules that, 99% of the time, the rules that we have come from Frankfurt or from the federal government, and we have to follow them. And we have to perform our jobs, as honest and as upright as we can to make sure that we're following the rules for everybody. So there's that little notable increase. So overall, all of those things combined, the difference between 15 and 18 is $91,000. So there's the difference between the excess fees of what we've turned over. So it's really hard to be in local government right now with the retirement demands. Retirement is going to go up again for us, for every county government, every city government. We're going to take another hit come July. And it's really, it's a struggle. What are we going to be able to do with this? And everyone is struggling with that. And equally the school systems too, not just local government here, but the school systems as well. So I always give the fiscal court just some information about how much I collect for them in taxes, how much my office collects in ad valorem tax, which is your vehicle tax. In 2018, we collected $237,000 in vehicle tax for the fiscal court. In deed transfer tax, so this is tax when you transfer property. So if I have property and Jen buys my property, I as the seller am responsible for paying tax on that. So in 2018, we collected over $76,000. And then delinquent property taxes. So property tax bills are collected by the sheriff up until April 15th. This year, because of the way that the interim sheriff left and Brian started, there's a day delay, so I'll get those on the 16th, April 16th this year. Those delinquent tax bills come to my office. The county clerk is responsible for collecting delinquent taxes as well as the delinquent tax bill sale. So we have to sell tax bills. So if you do not pay your property tax, your bill will come to my office. You will have the option to try to work out a payment arrangement with the county attorney's office. And if you don't uphold that arrangement, then I sell your bill. If you don't make any arrangement, I sell your bill. The first couple years, it was probably the saddest day of being in office because there's names on that list every year that I know. And it's really disheartening that I'm selling their tax bill, which means that I could be, their home could be going into foreclosure. The other side of that coin is we all pay our taxes. We're all supposed to pay our taxes. It's how we keep our government functioning, and we should pay our dues. So delinquent tax bills are certainly, I talked about January being stressful. March is our busiest month of the year. All farm tags, all heavyweight trucks, so every trucking company that we have, all campers, trailers are all due in March. Right after that is boats in April. So they all kind of blend together because most people who have a camper also have a boat. So that all kind of gets mixed together. And then we get the tax bills in April, which adds another layer of a job to do. And then guess what? The election's in May. And the election really is now for me. Like the planning is now that we do. So it's first part of the year is pretty busy. It keeps us hopping. Something that I'm very proud of and something that I really campaigned, and I know I stood here at in this room a few years ago. Time flies. But I was really upset about the fact that our county was not preserving our history. There is a lot of history in the county clerk's office with land records and what properties transfer and plats of property. So what did a subdivision look like back in the 50s when it was developed, when it really wasn't thought to be a subdivision, it was just a street, So those were really important documents to me to preserve. I got started on that right away. Before I was even in office, the vendor that we use in our office is a Kentucky-based company. They're out of Louisville. They provide software solutions to county clerks' offices, and the office had been using that company prior to me arriving, but they're one of the leading companies in the field. So I had sat down with them and met with them after I got elected and said, I know we use you. That doesn't pigeonhole me into you because I don't have a contract with you. So what can you provide for me? So they really kind of laid it all out. There was electronic indexes that were built. So if Jen and I were selling that property again, our names would be in there, but there was no image. So you couldn't see the deed. You had to go pull the book and find the deed in the book. And I really wanted people to be able to sit down and type in a name and the deed come up, right? So it's an image. So we have an electronic document of that. So if something was to happen, a natural disaster was to happen, we can go back and recreate those if we have to. We can print them. So 30 years is the magic number for title searches. They go back 30 years most of the time if it's a straightforward search. And that was my goal, to be able to get to that 30 years. And we're like this far from it. We're really close. But when I first negotiated with software management, I had them come in, and all of those images or indexes that we had created back from 2000 when they started doing that, they fed in all of those images for us as part of doing business with us. We didn't pay extra for that. It wasn't part of anything. They had some people who were freed up in time, and we needed that completed so we could get images available online. So they did that. Then I started writing grants. So the Kentucky Department of Libraries and Archives offers grants to county clerk's offices and other local government offices. We collect money in the legal process and the document side of the office for these grants. So county clerks are awarded grants. I had been told when I started, you can't apply back-to-back years. They won't approve you back-to-back years. I don't know what I did. It's not my grant writing skills or anything like that, but we've gotten 3 grants 3 years in a row. So we've been really fortunate. However, we've been really good stewards of the dollars that they've given us. We have, in 2016 to 2017, these are fiscal year grants. We were awarded $18,000, and people say all the time, don't turn money back over, you'll never see it again, and all of those things. But I think because we've been good stewards, that's why we've been awarded money back. So we turned back $13,000 that year and exceeded what we needed to scan by 20 books in both deeds and mortgages. Then in 2017-18, we again got $18,000. We gave back $9,400, and we exceeded our goal then by almost 35 books in both deeds and mortgages. Then in 2018, we're in this current fiscal year, we are on track to exceed and be past that 30-year mark, which is what I'm really hoping for. So we'll be back in back in like 86 is where we're going to end up in deeds, and we like to match up the mortgages to those because a lot of times a deed and a mortgage come in at the same time, so we're hoping to get to 86. Mortgages take a little bit longer. They're a lot thicker, especially the new mortgages that we see coming in from banks now. We had a mortgage that was over 500 pages a few weeks ago. I don't know who read that mortgage, or who prepared it, but it took a lot of time. So, there's a lot of work that goes into that. I've been really fortunate. I have two people who have committed the last 2 years. One has committed 3 years, but 2 have committed the last 2 years to really making sure that this project is staying on track and doing it. And I don't have to worry. They're in my basement. I walk in, and they're down there working away. They're retired. They're 2 retired bankers, so they understand the documents and have a lot of joy, I think, doing that. It gives them, they're certainly focused on making sure that we reach our goal. So it's been really a great experience. It's not that I don't believe. I know that I'm not applying for this grant a 4th year because I really don't think that there's any chance that we would get it since we have our 30 years in. So we're looking to apply again for some grant money, just doing something differently. I really would like to have our plats. So if you live in land that was divided up somehow, like let's take the Harvesters in Crittenden, we'll just use that as an example. That has a plat that's associated with it. It was an engineered plat that's recorded in our office. We would like to be able to have that document electronically. Well, you have to have this huge scanner to do that. And there's a lot of digital documents that go along with that to index it to every deed. And there's companies who do this that we can apply for grant money, that the grant money would pay the company to come in and do this. So that's what the next cycle looks like for us. We're really hopeful that we would be able to get that funding to perform and have those plats available for not only you, if you want to come in and get a picture of your property or of your plat, or to have the coordinates of what your property lines are, but also for title searchers, attorneys who come in who want to, realtors, when you're trying to sell a piece of property and they want to see the property lines, you'd be able to come in and print that and not only get a picture of the whole subdivision, but also zoom down on the computer and get just certain lots. So that's really important to us. It is different. I mean, it's the same plat. The PVA office has plats in there. Angie did a really good job of securing a lot of those documents electronically when the clerk's office wasn't. But there's still some documents that we would like to have in our database that links up to the deeds. So, yeah. So things that we've done to innovate in the office since I've been in office, they were not taking credit card payments or debit card payments before I started. You can use your debit and credit card. It does charge you a fee. The bank charges a fee. I obviously don't have enough excess fees to pay for those credit card fees, so you, the consumer, pay for those. If you want to use them, we still take cash and checks and don't charge you a dime for those, unless you write me a bad check. But we also provide and have a website that provides online registration of your vehicle, so you can go online and register your vehicle. You can also look up prior year taxes, so if you were looking those up and you wanted to know what you paid in taxes last year, you can also do that with a lookup tool on our website. You can register online to vote now. You can change your registration online. So let's say that you move and you need to update your voter registration. You can do that online. You don't have to come into the office to do that. There is a digital signature that's imaged from driver's license at the circuit clerk's office that comes over and marries with your voter registration card. So we have that file. Another piece that we've done in voter registration, every voter card that we have, all 18,000 plus, have been scanned electronically into the voter registration system. That was a really important project to have completed, because on election day, when you're trying to say something to somebody over the phone about them being eligible to vote or not eligible to vote, they want to know right then why they're not. Well, for me to have to go find their card in a drawer alphabetically and then pull it and then come back, it was taking a long time. The other thing is it gives us a document, just the same as I said before about the electronic or about a natural disaster on the land records side. It's no different. Voter registration cards are a permanent document of my office until you're purged. So if you for as long as you were here and registered to vote in Grant County, it's my job to make sure that your card is on file. And having an electronic document of that is very important, because if we had something happen, like what happened in Paducah last week with the tornado, that didn't hit government offices, but at any time something like that could. And then where would we be? We wouldn't know. So it's very important that we have those documents stored electronically. At least I feel like it is. So the other thing that we've done is we take over the phone payments. So you can renew if you can't get online and renew your registration. You can call in our office. This has been really handy for some of our military personnel who may not have access to online portals, but they can call us and do it over the phone. So it's an automatic system. You call in our office, same number that's on your paper, you just press 7, and it takes you into our automated phone and renewal line. My good friend Kenny Brown, the Boone County clerk who passed away, I'll never forget, he called me up, and this was in my 3rd year. He was really worried about my re-election. Although we were opposite parties, we were very, very good friends. And he called me up and he said, okay, you're starting phone in renewals next week. We're getting this going. And I'm like, well, Kenny, I have things to do. We're right before an election and, an off year, but we had election protocol that we had. We have audit that we have to do. So I have all this stuff going on. He said, it doesn't matter. We're signing you up next week. They'll be down to talk to you. I'll call and get it all arranged. And he did. And they showed up in my office to perform online, to get everything set up for me. And, it's really interesting in the clerk world, because party affiliation doesn't really come into play with our association. It's about what's important for our communities and being good stewards of our tax dollars, and also being the responsible party for our constituents. A lot of times things happen in Frankfort that we don't feel like are good for our constituents, and we normally are the first line of defense when it comes to a lot of those bills. So we try really hard to make sure that we support things that are good for elections, good for our citizens, and so it's good working in a bipartisan way. We're a very bipartisan association, and proven Kenny's care for me in my 3rd year, making sure that I would get reelected. So it's Does anybody have any questions? I know you all are going to try to make it to a court meeting, so I don't want to take up more than what I can. Sure.
I've got a few.
Okay.
Where are we with the passports?
Sure. So passports is something that many county clerks are performing. It is required that we complete federal guidelines, complete some forms. We have started that process. There was a little bit of a delay during the government shutdown. So we've been told, the few of us who submitted about the same time have all kind of been told they're waiting for a little bit until some of the air clears. So we're not sure what that means. So I'm hoping that we can get things up and running within the next year. That's what I'm hoping. It'll bring in revenue for the office, so that's very important.
You said you can register your vehicle online?
Yes.
If you're buying a car from a dealer, the dealer can't do it online?
No.
No.
No. Yeah, title work, registering a vehicle, meaning renewing your tags. So you already
okay.
own that vehicle.
Okay.
You're going to renew your tags online.
Okay.
Your vehicle registration. Titling a vehicle is a different set of guidelines.
Okay.
Yes.
Real quick, one of the things that kind of confused some people last year about voter registration is when you go in and you got a new license, and you did it over at the circuit clerk's office. And if you didn't fill out the form of your party affiliation, it would go into the system, go over to your office, go into the system, and then it would kick them out as a nonpartisan.
That's
Is that
correct.
is that still the way it is?
It is. That's state law.
Okay.
So her question was, when you go to driver's license and you fill out your card but you don't check your party affiliation, the system automatically marks that as other. And that is on your sheet. We have, looks like 1,479 people marked as other. Now, at any time, they could come in and register. Again, the December 31st deadline would come into play, but they can come in and register and change that. This always comes up on May primary elections. We deal with that phone call repeatedly. That's another reason it's important for us to be able to pull up that voter registration card on the spot so we can see what was marked, if it wasn't marked. Those cards do get, there are cards, if they're not signed, they get marked incomplete. But it was, the whole reason that went into place was to take care of not having thousands of cards marked incomplete for a party affiliation, because it's not required. Because you can be other. You can be independent, you can be, so it's not a required designation. Signature
Well,
is.
just curious about it because we can get that out and
Yes.
tell people, when you go in and renew your license, make sure
Mhm.
that if you want, you check your party affiliation.
Correct. Yeah, that's very important. Okay. Other questions? No? Okay, so I'm going to put in my plug here. If you would like to work the polls on election day, I can still use some really great people. You do get paid. It's $25 for training. You are mandated to attend a training, and it's $140 for the day, so $165 total that we would pay you for your service. You have to arrive at the polling location at 5:15 a.m., which is not horrible, is it, Jen, Deb?
It's
and Deb?
doable.
It's doable. Okay, so we have some in here. They can explain their experience to you, but it is really, it's really important that we have people who work the polls. If I don't have enough, the state's going to send people to me. We don't want that. We want people from our own community working the polls who understand our community. This election, it is super simple because it's Democrat and Republican. That's all you have to know. It's marked in the book or on your poll pads, so it's not a matter of trying to determine ballot. It's really simple, and you get to see a lot of people. And, you get a great sack lunch from the Grant County homemakers. So if you would like to serve, if you're interested in that, just see me or give me a call, and we would be happy to get you registered. We're short currently right now. We have to appoint them in the morning. So the Board of Elections are busy working this evening trying to find a few more people. We're short 5, mixture of Democrat, Republican. I do have to balance each precinct. 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans in every precinct. And we don't have any alternates right now. So if someone gets ill or has a death in the family or decides they're going to go on a trip at the last minute, then I don't have anybody to replace. So if you're interested, please let me know. We would love to get you signed up.
When's the training?
The training is Monday, the 13th of May, and Tuesday, the 14th of May.
You have to come
Both-
both days?
No,
Just
you come
one
one day, and there's 3 trainings that are offered. On Monday, it's at 6 p.m., Tuesday, it's at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., and all of the trainings take place at the Grant County Board of Education.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
so it's not far for you, Lori. You hear them. Yeah.
They're a lot.
Yeah. So, any other questions that I can answer for
On
you?
that voting thing, do you usually get in your poll, or do you have to go someplace else sometimes?
Oh,
For your poll, we try really hard to keep people in their precinct. However,
Not
yeah.
it's not always possible because there is a lot of times that I cannot find 8 people in Corinth to work. So I pull them from other areas. There's a lot of times that I cannot find 20 people to work in Crittenden. So I pull them from other areas. Williamstown and Grant County Middle School are the 2 quickest to fill up. And
Yeah.
out of nowhere, the last 2 elections, Mount Zion has been like this popular bed. I've been able to fill my 2 precincts in Mount Zion before I filled all my precincts in Williamstown, which is, they have a little party over there is what I've been hearing. They have a little food fest or something going on. There's some good cook. Somebody can cook over there because the same people are coming back every time. Like, please only put me in Mount Zion. I'm like, really? I mean,
That's cool.
we were having the hardest time. My first several elections, I was begging people to go to Mount Zion. I don't know who's cooking, but somebody's a good cook because there's a lot of people wanting to go back there.
Okay.
So, all right.
So, did you have any thing to say about the Allison Grimes mess that they had down there in Frankfurt? With,
Okay.
Yeah,
So, did anyone watch Kentucky Tonight last night?
No.
I didn't. I missed it, unfortunately.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
So, I wondered if I was going to get this question.
Yeah, I was in Frankfurt and I saw that on the floor.
Yes.
I was there.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I will tell you that clerks have had a hard time with the current secretary. And as a Democrat and someone who went through a merge and really thought I was going to be very excited to work with Secretary Grimes, it's been a difficult relationship.
Okay.
And there's something that I stand for on principle all the time, and that is having a local voice at the state level. If you ever hear me speak to large groups at the state level, I will always say, we need local voices here. The state doesn't know what we need. We know what we need. We need to be at the table. Don't exclude the counties. Don't exclude the cities. And that happens all the time in Frankfurt. And we have been in a position where there have been times that county clerks need to have a voice at the table with the State Board of Elections, and it hasn't happened.
Really?
So when Senator Thayer proposed Senate Bill 34, which then became House Bill 114,
Right.
and allowed for 2 county clerks to sit on the State Board of Elections, there was no way that I was going to let party separate me from doing something that puts a local voice on a state board.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So that was the other pieces of that bill. I'm not going to support endorse. I mean, that in my opinion, I separated those. In my mind, I separated those because on principle, I want local voices on state boards.
Right.
I want a county person who actually is boots on the ground running an election to sit on a board to make
Right.
decisions about elections. So I told you that we had been told that we were getting 2 electronic poll books for every precinct. Well, I got an email about a month ago that said we needed 44 here. We were only getting 31. Only 8 of my precincts have 2 allotted to them. 14 of my precincts only have 1. So if somebody drops it, it's an iPad, shatters it, I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody spills coffee on it, I'm down. They forget to plug in the charger or the charger's not working and they don't realize it, I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
So to be told that for 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then to bring this up at a recent meeting and say, what is this? Well, that was just for the last election, is what we were told.
Mm-hmm.
No, we have asked for 2 years. We're getting 2 poll books per precinct. Yeah, 2 poll books per precinct. And then they added the caveat that was for the last election. So that's been disheartening for me. It was a struggle. I think last night when I watched KET, my husband was like, I can't believe he just said your name. The Senator Thayer said,
He said
even
your
my
name."
Democrat clerk in Grant County endorsed this bill. You know, so he did use my maiden name, so I was hoping some people
Well,
thought,
that's
who was that? You know?
Trying enough.
But, you know, yeah, exactly. That's what he said. And then my husband was like, how long have we been married? 10 years, so he doesn't know your
He's
name.
not good with names.
So, but again, on principle, I couldn't not support a bill that put 2 county clerks
Okay.
on the State Board of Elections
Okay.
to actually have our voices heard. And then in House Bill 114, it morphed, it got amended a little bit, and now it's 2 retired clerks. 1 Democrat, 1 Republican, but they're retired clerks. Which still I'm supportive of because they've been there. And some of them who are retired have been there much longer than I have.
Correct.
So their experience is invaluable and could be a great asset for clerks and the citizens. Again, a lot of times we're the ones who come up and are the first line of defense for the citizens about things that we feel strongly about. You know, Secretary Grimes wanted to do online voting for military and overseas, and it had been hacked numerous times. I mean, there was proven documentation, and the clerks were the ones who went up against her and stopped that. You know, there is a simpler process for them to use. There's an online portal. It makes it a little bit faster, but we still have to have that mailed ballot. Our ballot box it needs to be sacred. And we need to make sure of that, and that's something that we try to protect.
Are there many pushing for early voting for everybody?
Yes. Yes. So an interesting perspective that I have. So I said I went through Emerge, so I now have several Emerge sisters who are in the House, okay, who filed bills about early voting and expected me to be all gung-ho and supporting it. But again, I'm about local government. We pay the price for that. As taxpayers in this county, we pay for every election. The state does not pay for our election. The county government budget pays for the election.
Right.
And until they find a funding mechanism to help conduct that, it's an unfunded mandate. It's no different than what we have with the jails. And I can't support that. We have to find a way to fund it. Now, in Grant County, I'm going to tell you that you're very fortunate because we try hard as a board to set a date that is well before the 12 legal days that we have to be open. Okay, we only have to be open 12 days before the election for absentee voting. We try to be open at least try to be a month before. This year, just with some things that fell on the calendar, we're just shy of 4 weeks. So the 21st is the election and we're opening on the 27th. We always try to open on a Saturday. I always try to take into account in October that getting ready for the November election, we have a large group of snowbirds that fly away. I always try to take into account when we open for them and when they're leaving so that we can catch all of them before they go to help cut down on the cost for the taxpayers of mailing ballots. So yes, we've seen some early voting bills. Nothing has come through. However, I did give my word to Representative Cirillis, who is an Emerge alum, that I would sit down with her and bring some other clerks to sit down in the interim to discuss early voting and how we could proceed that would be acceptable with clerks and with other, with the State House.
Do you have any idea how other states pay for theirs? I mean, not that we would.
Elections are ran very differently in other states.
Oh, okay.
So
it's
I've
not
been
necessarily-
part of a national cybersecurity training for the last couple years where we literally are Skyping in all at the same time, other states, other election officials, the FBI, Homeland Security, the CIA, I mean, they're all at the table. And we've had many discussions about what other states do. There's some states that are all strictly mailed ballots. No one goes to a polling location. Everybody gets a mailed ballot and you mail it back. There's some states like Georgia. I have a good friend who lives in Georgia, and they have drive-through voting. I mean, How easy could that be? You sit in your car. It doesn't get any easier than that. They do drive-through voting. But the difference is that they have election staffs in each of their jurisdictions, whether they're divided up in parishes or counties or cities, however they're divided in their state. And they literally may have 10 to 15 people working an election. In county clerk's offices, what you get the day you come in to renew your tags is what I have to run election day.
Right.
And sometimes I take some heat for being closed on election day for my other services. I can't keep my motor vehicle open. You know, I don't keep my land records open on election day. I close them. Because if I have something happen, we have to have a quorum remain of the county board. So I can't just run out on any whim that I want to go see what a machine's doing. I have to send them. They have to be my eyes and ears. If we ran out of ballots somewhere, they have to be the ones to take them out. If somebody gets sick at the polling location and I don't have any alternates, then my staff is trained. They go through, I make them come in the evening. They don't like me very much on that day, but make them come anyway. And they get trained so I can send them out. So it's very different in Kentucky because we wear many hats as county clerks. And there's some offices that have one deputy and the clerk, and that's it. There's not, they can't handle more than 12 days of absentee ballots in their county. That's all they can handle. So we have to find a balance of making sure that the ballot box is kept sacred, trying to find out if there's proven statistics that early voting really works. There's a lot of clerks who have performed. We have committees in our association, and the clerk who had been over elections had been there for over 20 years. He had documentation after documentation of all the states who have went to early voting, and it hasn't improved voter turnout over the long haul. So are we putting more demand and then not having the resources to complete it? Now, something that I would really like to see, I don't think it's quite fair. If my mom's worked at Dana since I was a senior in high school, which has been a long time ago, and she a lot of times is mandated to work 12-hour shifts. There's other places, we have the hospital, some of those nurses and staff over there work 12-hour shifts, but they're still in the county on election day. So I would like to see that language changed a little bit, because it specifically says you have to be outside the county. Well, you're signing an affidavit, so you could be brought to court by signing the affidavit saying that you're outside the county when you're really working inside the county. You just know that you're not going to get outside of your work. However, there is a law that says that every employer must give at least ample amount of time for you to be able to go vote. However, sometimes there's retaliation.
Right. Isn't that sad?
It is.
As a labor person,
I know.
It's very bad.
I know.
Very
So we need to find a better balance. I'm not going to say that I'm completely against early voting. I just know that, again, with being principled on local government, I also am principled on small counties, because that's what I'm experienced in. And how much more can a staff of 2 with an elected official and 1 deputy handle? They can't handle much more. And that's all that they can afford. That's what their county, that's what it is.
Right.
So,
all the studies I've seen is young people want early voting. Not just the older people. They want to be able to, like a month before, they want to be able to come in on a Saturday or when they come in. I don't know how well the studies are narrowed down, but they say, young people say, one day to vote, you got to go vote on one day is terrible. Something came up, I didn't make it. And getting young people to vote is something everybody's pushed for.
Sure.
To getting them out to vote. And like you said, in primaries too, I get my people, they come and they say, why don't you want to vote in general election? I don't like anybody there. I said, you vote in the primary? No. I said, that's why your guy's not there. You didn't vote for him. He lost. The one you wanted is gone. And I go through all these kind of things. I bring him a guy and say, this is Labor's man. This is the guy we need to vote for. And he loses. Getting them back to the poll on the general election day is terrible. You told me this guy was great. I said, we didn't get enough people to vote for him. This guy is the second best person,
Yeah.
And we tell them that, but it's
it's tough, and what's it's just a tough balance. And I know one thing. Clerks do not like it when things are forced on us. So we're much better doing things at a table, having all the players there and finding a plan that can be sufficient for everyone. And we did that in Senate Bill 114 with electronic recordings, which we're pushing and hoping that the governor will sign. But it did come out of both House and Senate favorably. But it's to allow county clerks. It does not mandate county clerks. It's permissive, so it would allow county clerks to accept documents electronically for recording. And our system is already set up. It's literally a flip of a switch for us. It's not a change, but counties like Kenton and Fayette have to completely change what they're doing because they have internal systems. So they would have to really, normally it's always tougher on the small counties when we have some kind of big change. In this case, a lot of us small counties have vendors that are already prepared to do this because they're doing it other places. And we're just waiting for the switch to be flipped. So, yeah, but it certainly would help. Here, we have a lot of requests for people to, they drive documents down because it's the race to the courthouse with land records. Whoever gets to the courthouse first has the lien. Sometimes those things happen. So a lot of times we have attorneys who say, this would be so much easier if you just accept this in an email. I know, but we can't. It's illegal, so sorry. Well, they do it in such and such state. And again, we're like 49th to accept electronic recordings. So it's time to evolve. Yeah, it's time. But that was a task force of 2 years. So the legislators started out, Representative out of Louisville started with this 2 years ago. We had to completely crush his bill and play defense for the whole session and try not to get him to resurrect it and made a pretty good enemy out of him. And then 2 years later, we've put together a task force and had all the players at the table and have a pretty good bill. There's some things that could have been a little better for clerks, but it's a pretty good bill. We'll be very pleased with it if we can get it through.
So 114.
Senate bill, not House. House bill was what Damon Thayer attached to. So Senate bill 114, and it's on the governor's desk.
On the desk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So.
Are there many opposed to this?
There's only one group right now that we know that's actively lobbying the governor. So there's a piece of the bill that's called RON, Remote Online Notary. That was the only way that we could get the bankers really on board to really put some pressure to get the bill passed. And basically what that is it's an application that you can use on your phone or computer, and you can have something notarized remotely. I will tell you the only reason that I am for that. I am really a stickler when it comes to notary, because that is a legal document. You as a notary should never just sign your name and then give the document to somebody and tell them to sign it. That's completely wrong.
They need to do it in front of you.
They have to do it in front of me. However, I had a situation just this past year with a member of our military who was serving overseas. They were moving back here to Kentucky when he got deployed unexpectedly. And not all of their loan documents got signed before he left. And his wife and child ended up being without a home because the documents could not be signed. I tried to work with the realtor the best that I could. I even called the mortgage company myself and tried to say, listen, we can't notarize a signature. It's against Kentucky law. I can't do this. We have to send the documents to him, but we can't get them to him to get recorded. And they dropped their loan. They lost the house that they wanted because of this. Had we had Ron, he had phone service. He was still in a place where he had phone service. He just wasn't going to be there long enough to send a document overseas to him. So he could have done a remote online notary, signed his mortgage documents in literally 10 minutes. That whole conversation online would have been recorded and archived for, I think it's a couple years. And then if something was wrong, they could have used that in a court of law, whatever, which is not current. I mean, I'm almost at the point of saying that it's more secure because there's an online record of it. But there's still some unknown about what does that really look like when you're doing that online? What if somebody's sitting there and we don't see them off to the side holding a gun to somebody's head, trying to make them sign over their property or something? I mean, it may seem a little far-fetched, but it's really not, you know, so.
Not this day and age.
No, yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I still am reserved about Ron, but in that situation with that military family, I felt miserable that I couldn't do anything to help them. And had I had that tool in my toolbox, I could have pulled that out and used it. So it was really,
He couldn't have done a power of attorney before he left.
I mean, that's what I said. I said, why didn't he do a power of attorney before he left? But apparently it was pretty immediate. Like they came in and basically marshaled him out.
I would have done it.
I
I
Yeah.
would have done it. I would have typed it up, did it, and
Yeah.
And I know attorneys that would have respected that very much. So they would have been up at 10 o'clock at night doing it to help a soldier.
Sure. Sure. So
That's sad.
it is. It was just a rough situation. So yeah. But that is also one situation. That doesn't happen every single day. So notary happens every single day. So is it really the safest? I don't know. But I do know that we have to evolve. At some point we have to accept technology and evolve.
One thing I do know, as a notary public, I do not like titles, vehicle titles, because they change so often. I refuse to notarize a title unless it's
Send them
in
to
front
me.
of you, and there's usually two signatures that if you mark it and say this is where it is, because they change them, and every time I get used to one, it changes.
Uh-huh.
So I don't
Welcome to our world.
I don't do those unless I'm there at your office and you say, here's where they need to sign. Go ahead and sign and bring it back to me.
Right.
Because I don't want to mess up a title and have to do a new application.
Right. Right.
So I appreciate you helping with those.
Absolutely. Anytime. That's why we're there. So, any other questions? I've taken up way more of your time than what I was supposed to.
okay.
This was so interesting and so much important information.
Well,
that we're hungry for. So
Good.
thank you.
Absolutely. Anytime. All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.